So back here in our grow space, we tend to grow out quite a few beautiful, larger variegated specimen, which I'm here to show you today. And then of course, a lot of these guys are gonna be available on our website and here in store as well. All right, so we can start with my favorite variegated plant of ours, and that is the variegated pedatum. The green form of this plant is one that you find a little bit more often, but this variegated form certainly is more uncommon. Really standard care for these guys. You just want to let that soil dry between waterings and then give them lots of bright light, especially because they are variegated. In order to maintain that variegation, you're going to want to provide them a little extra light. Giving one of these guys a structure to climb up is definitely going to be ideal for them as well. You can see on our plant here, it's got loads of aerial roots that would love to attach to something. Similar to the variegated pedatum, but a little different, is the Philodendron Florida Beauty. This is one that all collectors definitely want to get their hands on. This one here is so beautiful. This is another one that's going to be really happy climbing, and this is another one that is super important to give lots of light to, especially if you're looking to maintain that variegation. All right, this next plant I think is so fun. I love the growth pattern on these guys, both the variegated form and the green form, and that is the Philodendron Burl Marx. We've got this guy in a 4-inch pot here, and you can see it is just exploding with new variegated growth. I am obsessed with these plants. These ones definitely are on the trickier side to maintain the variegation in, but using the proper fertilizer and giving it lots of bright light will definitely help ensure that you are maintaining that variegation. This next one is another one that a lot of people have had their eye on in recent months, and that is the variegated domesticum, another beautiful climbing plant here. This one has some really incredible half-moon variegation that you can see here. The leaves on these guys will get quite large over time, and this is another one that you're gonna want to allow to climb. You can see we've got it here on a little moss pole. Okay, this next plant that I have here is definitely more of a unicorn plant, and that is a variegated Philodendron Birkin. Believe it or not, this guy is a Philodendron Birkin, although it does not have those white sort of pinstripes that we're used to seeing. This is just a one-of-one plant that we've got here in our grow space, so we'll probably grow it out for some time and then possibly chop it up. On especially rare stuff like this, we definitely like to let it grow out for some time before we post it for sale. All right, this plant here is one that I am in love with. You get that beautiful lime green, sort of like speckled variegation on this plant, and this is the Philodendron Rouet Sap. This is another one that we just got one of here in our grow space, potted up in a little 2.5-inch pot. All the new leaves on this guy are so beautiful. I mean, would you look at that? So this next plant is one that all collectors definitely have been after lately, and that is the variegated Monstera adansonii. This one that I've got here with me today has got some really nice sectoral variegation as well as some really nice stem variegation here. This is one that we tend to keep in stock on our website and here in store, so make sure to check that out. These are one that it is especially important to provide a lot of light to. They do revert quite easily if they're not given enough light. I would recommend a grow light or lots of bright light for these guys. Okay, so another variegated Monstera adansonii that we've got here is the Monstera adansonii Mint. So rather than that white sectoral variegation on the elbow, here you get that more splashy mottled variegation. On these guys, the leaves also tend to be a little bit more elongated and the fenestrations tend to be a bit larger. That is what I have noticed on the ones we've got growing here. This plant here is definitely one that is very special, and that is the variegated Scindapsus Jade Satin. This one is highly variegated, as you can see here. We've just got this upper corner with some dark green, and the rest is fully that creamy yellow color. We've got this guy climbing up a little moss pole here, and we give it lots and lots of bright light and feed it regularly, and that has gotten us some beautifully variegated growth here. I feel like we can't do a video on variegated plants without me showing this beautiful philodendron red Anderson. This guy is just so breathtaking. You can see that beautiful bright pink on the stem there and on the new growth. This guy does have a little bit of browning on that solid white part of the leaf. It is worth noting that that is something that happens to these highly variegated plants, especially when they're putting out these all white sections. As they mature and over time, that part of the leaf will most likely start to brown. But yeah, here is the philodendron red Anderson. Okay, so I've shown you some pretty rare stuff. Let's bring it back to the basics here with a variegated neon pothos. We've got a new mother plant here that we're sort of just getting established. You can typically find little sports in just your standard pots of neon pothos, but giving them extra light will promote that variegation on the new growth. You can see here on this guy, by really blasting it with that light, we have gotten some beautiful, beautiful variegation here. So another variegated pothos would be the Epiprenum amplissimum. This is the Aurea variegated. So not one that you come by all that often. This is another one that is putting out beautiful variegation for us. Typically we sell the silver streak here in our store and online. And then this Aurea form is one that we tend to have available in limited quantities. We've got some growing out right now, so definitely stay tuned in the next couple weeks for these guys. They're super easy to care for, and if you're giving them a structure to climb up, these leaves will get absolutely massive. I mean, can you guys picture one of these beautifully variegated leaves up to like 3 feet long? Totally, it could happen if you allow it a structure to climb up. All right, another really easy care variegated plant is going to be the Syngonium albo. I've got this beautiful plant here in a 2.5 inch pot. This one is one that we always have available here at Peace, Love, and Happiness Club. These guys look great trailing or climbing and grow so fast. It's also worth noting that these guys propagate really easily. So as it grows out, if you're chopping it back, you can end up with a really nice full pot in no time. That's what I've done with all of my Syngonium, and they are super happy. Typically when you chop your Syngonium back, they'll push out some new growth points as well. So that'll also help you get a fuller, larger plant. This is Syngonium albo. All right, next I've got an Anthurium to show you guys, and that is the Anthurium pterodactyl. This guy is so beautiful and definitely not one you come by all that often. Really neat, even in their green form, but finding this variegated one is something so special. All right, this next plant here, we actually just brought in yesterday, and welcome to the family. This is the Philodendron ilsamanii variegated. You can see we've got that beautifully variegated new leaf there. This guy is definitely on the smaller side, but it will grow in no time. Something to take into consideration if you're looking at picking up a variegated plant is that they will take a little bit longer to grow, as these highly variegated parts of the leaves don't photosynthesize, so they're not providing energy to the plant. So this will definitely be one that will be very fun to watch grow out. I am really excited to say that we've got this guy here. This plant is one that I absolutely adore and enjoy looking at every single day that I'm here, and that is our variegated Monstera Peru. This one is so highly variegated, and we have it climbing up this moss pole here. It's about 2 feet tall, so this is a really impressive plant. It goes all the way up the pole and then all the way back down. So this guy is definitely ready to be chopped. So stay tuned for cuttings of these on the website in the coming weeks. That will definitely be coming soon. All right, this one here has been with us for some time now, but it is just absolutely gorgeous, and that is our variegated Alocasia zebrina. I am just in love with this plant. I can never get enough of it. We keep it on a top shelf, so it's not all that often that I get to bring it down and look at these beautiful leaves on this guy. But you can see it is just absolutely massive. I mean, the leaves are like the size of my head. All right, so this next one is another one that has been super trendy lately and for good reason, and that is the Variegated Syngonium Chia Pens. Look at how gorgeous this thing is. It stands probably about 3 feet tall in this 6-inch pot and is throwing out aerial roots like crazy. I'd imagine we'll probably chop this guy sooner rather than later. This guy is commonly mistaken as a philodendron, but it is actually a syngonium. So really easy care on these guys, really easy to propagate, and just all around a great plant to add to your collection. Either the green form or the variegated form. Of course, the variegated form is a little bit harder to come by. But look at that highly variegated leaf. There's so many different colors in there. It is really, really incredible. So we touched on Syngonium albo. Now I will show you my personal favorite variegated syngonium, and that is Syngonium aurea. Similar to the albo, but rather than that white variegation, you get that golden yellow variegation. This one is one that is also really, really important to be providing enough light to, as they do revert quite easily. I've had several turn green on me, and getting that variegation back in them once they've reverted is near impossible. All right, this one here we were all eyeballing this morning, and that is this Philodendron Periso Verde. This one is so cute. It's just in a little 4-inch pot here, and the leaves are barely the size of my hand. The leaves on these guys can get quite large over time. I'm looking at all of our mother plants right now, and the leaves are easily over a foot long. These guys make beautiful climbing plants. You get gorgeous mottled variegation. The variegation is pretty stable in them as well, and they grow quite quickly. So if you guys follow us on our Instagram, you have probably seen this beauty here. If you don't follow our Instagram, you definitely should, at Peace, Love, and Happiness Club. We feel so lucky here at Peace, Love, and Happiness Club to be able to say that we have one, and I am anxiously awaiting the day that this thing is big enough that we can chop it up and hopefully get some more plants of this going. Okay, so we've discussed quite a few more uncommon variegated plants, but let's bring it back to the basics. We've got this adorable variegated African violet. This one is very, very highly variegated and is in bloom as well. This is one that is part of the owner's personal collection. We've just got it here in this little self-watering pot, and then we stick it under a grow light, and it has been super, super happy. One of our last large specimen here is the Philodendron Jungle Fever Variegated. This is a beautiful, beautiful plant, one that is definitely on my wish list. The growth pattern is just so beautiful. They grow so lush and bushy, and this variegation pattern is just really something spectacular. You can see the size of these leaves here. They are easily larger than my hand. So this plant here is one that I am absolutely in love with. I think I will always have one of these in my collection, and that is the Epiprenum Global Green, or Global Green Pothos. These guys were quite hard to find up until about a month or two ago when they started popping up in plant stores locally. You get slightly smaller leaves on these guys, and then that sort of splashy variegation on them. All right, we've got another variegated syngonium here, and that is the Syngonium Mojito. Really splashy variegation on this guy. You can see it's also putting out new growth as well. Okay, so this plant here is another one that we also just brought into our grow space, and we will be growing out for some time before it's available for sale. But that is the Philodendron Lil Phil Variegated. You guys, I am so excited about all of these. This one here is so highly variegated, and I cannot wait to see it grow out and produce those larger leaves. This guy here, I think I might actually take home with me today, and that is the Ficus Dorado, or Ficus benjamina Dorado. We've got these guys potted up in 4-inch pots. So it's just like your standard Ficus benjamina, except it is very, very highly variegated. It's almost like all white leaves with just little splashes of green. One of these would make a beautiful little desktop plant, or perfect for like any small space. Of course, over time as they grow out, they will get quite large. So that is Ficus Dorado here in a 4-inch pot. I have to show you guys this beautiful variegated Rhaphidophora tetrasperma potted here in a 6-inch pot on a moss pole. This is one that we were fortunate enough to bring into our collection just a couple months ago. And so we've sort of just gotten it established on this moss pole, but you can see we've got some really nice variegation on this plant, and it will hopefully become a little bit more pronounced as it grows out and we give it the light that it needs. But you can see it's super happy on this moss pole. It's even pushing out a new growth point here. So I've shown you quite a few like tropical aroids, but next I will show you this Euphorbia trigona variegated. These are a super neat plant. They look like a cactus, but you want to treat them a little bit more like a succulent. Their watering requirements are a bit higher. If you're not giving it enough water, you will definitely notice the leaves start to drop. But you can see here we've got this really nice, highly variegated plant in a 4-inch pot here. This next one is another variegated cactus here. I won't even try to say the name of this guy, but we will put the name here down at the bottom. It's crazy long and I don't think I could pronounce it. A little bit of a slower grower, but in bright light, these greens, yellows, and reds really become more pronounced and they are just so eye-catching. The last plant that I've got to show you here is the Jose Buono, the Philodendron Jose Buono. I've got this guy potted up in a 4-inch pot here, and look at that new leaf, still hardening off and nicely variegated. This is a really beautiful plant to let climb in your space. You can see this is another one that is throwing out crazy aerials for us. These guys are pretty quick growers and, like I said, a really fun one to watch grow. So definitely take a look at these guys on our website. A couple of key points to take away from this video are that with variegated plants, you want to give them a little extra light than you would the green form to help promote that variegation and make sure it stays strong and healthy. The other thing to remember is that variegated plants do take a little bit longer to grow as those variegated parts of the plant aren't photosynthesizing. I hope you guys learned something from this video or maybe found a couple new plants to add to your wish list. I will see you guys in the next one. Peace out.